So thanks for having me once again. I appreciate everything that you're doing, and I've had the opportunity to take, a chance to go back and look at some of the other interviews and conversations, sorry, that you've had in the past, and it's phenomenal. I think we need to have more of that. So off the rip, I appreciate you for that. So my name is Bryan Harris, and I am the founder and president of the Harris Brand Sports and the Harris Brand Foundation. So we're a student athlete consultant company, and we sit with families and we sit with student athletes that are trying to navigate the whole recruitment process. We founded that company. I kind of fell into it, and then it became a passion. Like sports has always been a passion of mine. I'm a student athlete. I was a student athlete myself, and I've been through that process of being recruited and all of that, and it was very difficult. And then I had to go through it again with my son, and then help my son's friends. So as we went through that process of trying to get my son to the next level, there just wasn't enough support, and that's not no shade on no guidance counselors or coaches or anything like that. There just wasn't, the system wasn't there. It's just not, Canada is just not set up that way. And then to later learn that a lot of the guidance counselors here, shout out to them, by the way, because they do a phenomenal job. They would like to keep a lot of student athletes here in Canada. So there's just not a lot of information sending kids to the States. So, my wife and I, we just had to kind of compile the information ourselves and just try to pick people's brains. And then we were successful at it, right? And through that, we just said, okay, you know what? We've helped my son. Let's see, we ended up helping, his friends. And then it just kind of snowballed. And then, it was actually my son that said, hey, Dad, you're helping all these kids.
Yeah.
There's definitely a niche for it. Why don't you just turn it into a business and just help? Because we need that help, right? And that added support, right? So, it took me some time to think about it, and it made total sense to me.
Yes.
So through that process of starting the business and helping, student athletes get to the level, that next level, which is post-secondary, and or if they're trying to navigate, even nowadays, a lot of prep schools are popping up and junior colleges, and kids are just trying to get there. We just started putting a lot of important key information together that we felt that was important, that was lacking in a lot of club systems. Right. Again, that's not a slide.
No. Yeah.
System. That's just
right. You just can't do everything. Like they can't provide everything. Yeah. Right. And they got to do something really well. Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So we like to work in conjunction with and support these existing clubs and organizations and just help them with those things. And then through that process, like I said, we were helping a lot of student athletes. We started to realize that it's not just the lack of information, but it's also the lack of support from a monetary standpoint. Yes. So then I started thinking, okay, well, what else can we do to support these same student athletes that we're helping from an educational standpoint? So I started a charity called the Harris Brand Foundation, and that's where we were able to provide scholarships and mentorship opportunities for those same families and student athletes. And now we've expanded at-risk.
Yeah, I just want to jump in there, and I want you to finish that thought. But just for people who are listening, you don't just start a foundation. Starting a foundation in Canada is a beast of a project. You have it's like I just it was no two bolts about that is work. If you want to start you don't just sign a paper and mail it in. You have to audit and long conversations and details and people. It is a process.
Right.
It's a long process.
Yes.
So you didn't just start a foundation. You went through that pencil in the eye, painful process of starting a foundation.
It definitely was painful. It was definitely a painful process, but I knew I had to go through it because I knew there was the need. It was needed. It wasn't done for vanity or anything like that. There was definitely a need for my community and the student athletes and at-risk youth that in the communities that I serve, there
Mhm.
was a need for that. I'm the one. I'm frontline. I'm grassroots. So I'm literally
Yes.
in people's homes prior to COVID, and during COVID via virtual. But I'm in people's homes. And I'm sitting there talking to families about
Mhm.
their need and what they're
Yeah.
going through and so it was pulling on my heartstrings
Yes.
that these kids have so much talent and
Hmm.
there's opportunity in front of them, but then there's something there that's blocking it, right?
Right.
And I figured, okay, well, we've covered the educational side of it, but then
Yes.
uh, there's the monetary side. I come across a
Right.
lot of single parents and just families, even families that the parents are together, but they come across hard times and they just can't
Hmm.
afford to send their kid post secondary. And there's these full rides, but then there's also other payments that you got to pay for, right?
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
so there's always costs, right? And then we don't
Right.
factor it in, and there's that educational piece, right?
Right. And there's also the complicated piece of, a student athlete who is good but would benefit from that gap year of being in a prep school that doesn't give a scholarship. And then you're looking at 10, 15, 20K US for that. So it's like you're in between, and if they had that one little gap year step, they would excel the next level, but you can't afford the out of pocket in between phase.
Right, right, right. And again, that goes back to the lack of information. Like, so, if a lot of parents knew in advance, okay, well, I think a lot of parents know that one day I would like for my kid to go to university, but
Mhm.
there's not that push or that importance to say, okay, how are we going to actually save for this? Are we banking on the
Yes.
fact that my kid's going to get a full ride, a full scholarship, and
Mhm.
everything is just going to be taken care of? Or are we putting down a nest egg
Yes.
for future? And we don't do that a lot as a people. Like we just don't. We live for the now,
Yes.
and we don't think about the future. And it's definitely a necessity. We got to do better.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. What you just said a minute ago about vanity, I kind of laughed to myself. You said like you didn't start this foundation for vanity. That process is too hard to do it for vanity. If you do it for vanity, you would have gave up long time,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Like,
Well,
I
I
mean, it
mean,
has to be a passion project. It has to be something that you're driven, like you said, by seeing the legitimate needs, and that has to fuel those
yeah.
steps, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because the reason why I mentioned vanity, because with the word charity,
Yes.
there's also a huge negative stigma that comes behind it.
Right.
Let's be real. We're just having a candid conversation here. There is a lot of fraud, and there's a
Hmm.
lot of people that put foundations or charities in place to hide money and tax. Like because it's a tax shelter.
Yes.
Let's have a candid conversation here. It's a tax shelter, right? So
Right.
you have to fully understand our system from a CRA standpoint and
Yes.
understand that you got to be responsible with that opportunity that you get, right?
Yes.
Uh,
Absolutely.
so yeah, for sure.
That intersection, as I was saying in the beginning, that intersection of what you love to do and what you're good at and what is actually profitable.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, you're absolutely right. You got to that. There's that fine line, right? Shout out to Bernard. Shout out to my nephew Marcus. He's on there.
What's going on, guys? Yeah. So what were you doing prior to this? Like what industry were you in before you decided to make this leap?
Yeah, so I'm in education.
Okay.
I'm a youth worker for a school board. So I'm always like dealing with youth and working with youth is innate. It just comes to me. That's just what I do. I counsel kids and I help youth out. And then sports side of things has always been a part of it. I've coached, I've trained. I've always been a part of community based organizations and giving back.
Yes.
So I've just decided to, instead of doing it for other people, just do it for myself, right? And it was
Yes.
just perfect timing when my son was going through the process to say, all right,
Hmm.
now's the time to do it. And that's where that whole passion comes from, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So what sports is your son playing?
He's a professional soccer player down in Tampa Bay. Uh,
Okay.
he got drafted into the MLS. This
Nice.
is like 2 years now.
Yeah.
And so he went through the whole scholarship process. He got a scholarship to Penn State, and a full ride there, and he was there for a couple of years, and then he transferred over to Connecticut University sorry, UConn,
Yeah.
and yeah, and then he played out his years there. He graduated and then got drafted into the MLS. Uh,
Amazing.
so yeah, yeah.
There's your success story in house, right? Like right
There it
there, right?
is. There it is.
Yeah.
So we've literally, if you think about the life cycle of a student athlete, like we've been there from day one, like from
Yes.
my child was, peewee playing Timbit soccer, right?
Right. Right.
Right all the way up through the recruitment process, getting a scholarship, and now becoming a pro.
Mhm.
And even now as a pro, a lot of his peers and friends, and I'm very close. I work very close with his agent. So I even understand the whole pro process as well. And a lot of these guys, they still trust me at the pro level because
Yes.
I've helped them all the way through the process. So they
Right.
come back, we advise them, and so on and so forth. So it's definitely rewarding, and I love what we do.
Yeah, that's great, man. So now, are you not like you call yourselves like a student athlete consulting company? Like, is that just to differentiate so people don't think of you guys as just as agents trying to get kids full rides, full stop sort of thing?
Yeah, and the agent piece comes when you become a pro, right?
Okay.
We're nowhere near that agency level. That's not what we are. We literally sit and we consult. We tell them, the do's and the don'ts about the scholarship process. If you want your child to get to the next level of post-secondary, we could help you with that. And
Yes.
in that, we provide the key services that we feel that are, like I said, kind of lacking in the club system. But we feel that if you have these things with you along the way, because we manage them all the way through high school and make sure that their GPAs are where it needs to
Yes.
be. We make sure that they're taking the right course selection. All of those things, we're literally sitting with families talking to them about that,
Just mapping the whole thing out.
mapping out the whole thing, and then providing that player profile. Even maybe even if we have to sit with coaches and helping,
Yes.
intervene with that as well. So it's quite a bit that we do for student athletes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
How much of it is the mentoring component? Like, where does that tie into this?
I would say on both sides, because even though we're providing services, we do take a lot of our own personal time, and we sit with kids and we help them out with personal issues. So there's the business side of it, and then there's the personal side, right? Like
Yes.
we know and understand that all student athletes, they bear a lot of weight. They're trying to. The word balance is huge in our industry.
Mhm.
Having to
Mhm.
balance everything is a lot, right? Their social
Yes.
life,
Yes.
being able to perform at an elite level
Mhm.
consistently.
Consistently.
Yeah,
Wait for
consistently.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
is very, very difficult. And then your
Yes.
school life, right?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
my son, he didn't really have a social life, but that was something that he wanted to do. Like he didn't. There was
Mhm.
no hanging out. There wasn't hanging out at the mall or school parties or anything like that. There was none of that. It was just soccer. It was just focusing on soccer. And that's what he chose to do, and we
Yeah.
supported him in that. So getting
Yeah.
back to the question, it really depends on the student athlete. We truly look at all the student athletes that we have from an individual basis, and then we build a system around them individually, right?
Yes. Right. Right.
And then we'll mentor them accordingly.
Yeah, that's perfect. So how big, who's on your team at this point? Like, is it like what are the dynamics of the people that are in your group?
Yeah. So earlier you were talking about partnering. Like we like
Yes.
to call it strategic partnerships.
Okay.
So our team consists of individuals, young professionals that specialize in the key services that we have.
Okay.
So we've brought on nutritionists that's what they do. Like they're 9 to 5. This is what they do. They're dietitians.
Yes.
Been to school for that. this is not a this is serious business. This is not just calling a friend and saying, "Hey, can you help me out with something here?"
Right,
This
right,
is
right.
serious business. So these
No
are
mail order
basic.
certificate. All right.
No,
Yes, yes,
no, not at all, man. Like, so nutritionists. We have a sports psychologist, which we think is huge, and hopefully we can talk about that.
yes.
Mental toughness is huge, especially now, being that we've just gone through a pandemic and the whole return to play. A lot of kids are just they're going through it, man, and they need that
Yeah,
help, right?
right.
Uh,
Absolutely.
yeah, we have personal trainers and you name it. We have tutors for both
For,
mainstream school,
yes. And prep,
yeah,
right? Like SAT,
and then
ACT
the
prep.
SAT, ACT prep, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Uh, so we have a lot of professionals for the services that we provide, and then on the mentorship side, the exact same thing, right? The charity side, the exact same thing. These are all professionals they have their own disciplines, and they what they bring to the table is slightly different from what the other person brings, and
yes.
and then we attack it that way, right? Because
Yeah.
there's so many different types of needs,
Hmm.
needs that we've always known about, and then there's needs that are new needs that are coming up for these student athletes that we need to be able
Yes.
to support them with.
For sure. I see that with my son, who's like a 15-year-old, student athlete, and that mental toughness, the motivation, all these things that come with not having a consistent school life, having no basketball in school, no social life in school, everything online, everything plummets. Like they can be up one day and then down the next because there's no consistency, and like the whole rhythm of their day has changed, right? So
Right.
you're right. Like there's so many new, for lack of a better word, just different ripples, different things that we would have experienced when we were growing up in our challenges as student athletes that these guys are saying, and they're legit. Like they're not just like this generation is soft. Like this is a whole new breed
Oh,
of challenges, right?
oh yes, absolutely. Like we again, when we sit with there's the initial consultation where everything is just kind of formal and okay, this is what we want to do for you and so on and so forth. But when we start stripping away the layers uh,
Yes.
in terms of what the exact need is for that individual,
Hmm.
um, it's a lot. It's a lot,
Yes.
and it's a lot. And so that's why strategic partnerships is key. Like I'm not here to reinvent the wheel, or I'm not here to say I'm the master of all. And I feel like, and this is important, Martin. Like I feel like um, a lot of clubs um, have coaches that try to do it all, and
Yes.
and um, and again, kudos to them for doing that because they know
Hmm.
that their kids need to get to the
Yes.
next level, so
It
they're
comes
doing
from a good
everything.
place.
It comes from a
Yes.
good place, absolutely. That and again, that's why I keep saying there's no shade on that. I
Yes.
commend them for that, but it's also okay to let go of the reins a little bit and say, hey, listen, I need help here,
Mm.
especially when you're one person and you're managing anywhere between 12 to 18 kids. That's a
Right.
lot, right?
It
How do
is.
you give each individual student athlete like that bespoke type of support, right? That
Right.
custom support. How do you give that every and because you're only one person, there's only so much time in a day you
Hmm.
can. So you have to say you need a team around you to kind of support everybody, right?
Yes. Right.
Often in the basketball world, um, coaches focus on that starting five, right? Those starting
Mm.
fives are the stars. They're the guys, and then from that starting five, there's always that one even star like player, that player that just is even bigger,
Yes.
and they get all the highlights, they get all the film, and But whatever happened to that sixth man or seventh or eighth or seventh, and they could be just
Yes.
as good.
Right.
They're not that star on the team.
Right.
They also deserve to go to the next level and deserve an education and deserve
An
all the great
opportunity
things.
to,
An
yeah.
opportunity.
Well, it's all opportunity, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So
Hmm.
everybody deserves it, right? And that's kind of where we come in. We'll support you on that, right?
Yes.
It's just been a difficult journey, but we enjoy it nonetheless.
The thing that I hear behind what you're saying is when we start talking about the ways that we can make a difference in our generation, and the ways that we could do, like whether it's like Black Lives Matter or just how do we help our specific community, and all of us have gifts and talents. And then someone will say, well, we have to look at the youth. We have to look at the next generation.
Yeah.
And right. And then that's one thing that's said. And then we think, okay, well, what's a language? And we'd say, well, music is a language, food is a language, sport is a language.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah. No, you're right. You're absolutely right. And that's the approach that we've taken it. And so literally each of our services could be a business within itself, right?
Yes.
And we make sure that we handle it that way, right?
Okay.
We don't just throw in services that we feel that are just not necessary.
Okay.
Just to make a buck. No, like that's not what we're doing here. It's the core things that we feel that are extremely important that will help balance out who you are as an individual, for you to one, get to the next level, but then also make you a better individual on a whole. In case you don't go pro, or you have to become, we want you to become, a viable person in society and
Yes.
be able to grow into a good person overall.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I even commend you on what you do. Like how do you balance it?
In which way?
Well, in the sense of when you're dealing with your clients, right? And do you just kind of deal with all your clients the same way, or do you have a conversation with your clients to kind of figure out the direction, their goals, and all of that?
Yes.
Or you just kind of come in and say, okay, everybody's doing this today.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, that's a great question, because like that in the fitness world, there's a sweet spot between giving the person what they come in saying they want, and then what you as a professional recognize that they need. Right. So someone may come in and say, my daughter's getting married and I want to look fit for the wedding, and so I can fit in this dress, or I can look good in a suit.
Right.
And then you start working with them and realize that their posture is really terrible because they sit at a desk like this all day. And then you talk more with them and realize that they're not getting enough sleep. And then as your relationship gets richer, you recognize that like they're struggling in their relationship with their child. And then like, you know what I mean? So that you understand, you start to peel back layers, and you say like, your stress levels and your cortisol levels are going to be so high from your sleep, your relationships, and your work demands that no matter how much Pilates we do, you're going to look exactly the same. You're going to get stronger, but you're still not going to fit in that dress, sort of thing, right? So how do we find that sweet spot between what you need and what you say you want? And that's the dialogue that we have with that's the dialogue I have with all my clients, and internally with me, is that like someone comes in, and today it may be that we just want them to move. Let's go through the Pilates work. Let's get your mobility. Let's get you feeling better about yourself. And let's just be present and not think or talk about anything else.
Yeah.
So you could just be here, and we could just be in this moment and just check out of life for an hour and just check into your body.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then there's other times where it may be like, how are you today? And I really mean, how are you today? Not like, good, what's the first exercise?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then that will be the time that you have the conversation. And I've had that where we sit here and we don't do anything. And then they leave at the end of the session. They're like, I need to do that today. Thank you so much. Like, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, and that happens, right?
Yeah.
So it's like every day is that dialogue with myself and with the client. Okay, this is what you said you need. You said you want. And this is what you need. So I can see that that's what you have too. Like some kid walks in and says like, or you heard he's a top athlete, and you walk into that situation, and then you see his family situation, and you see his mindset, and you see he may be like, like that Nike t-shirt, lazy but talented, right? Like, I mean, how do you balance all those things? Because he wants a full ride, and you recognize that his ecosystem is jacked up. Right. So how do we find that balance? It's the same dialogue, different industry.
Right. Yeah, no, man. That's exactly what we deal with. I have student athletes that we talk to all the time that are so-called stars, right? But then when you actually sit with them on a one-to-one, and then they start, talking about what their needs are and where they lack, or everybody sees me as this great person, but I'm truly, or this outgoing going
Yes.
person because I'm dunking the ball, I'm doing all these great things, but
Yes.
actually I'm an introvert, and I'm very terrified of that. But
Yes.
I know that in order for me to get to the next level, I got to maintain this. And how do I get through that, or how do I work on that, right? And
Right.
it's up to me as a consultant to kind of understand that, see that, and then be able to refer them to the right professional to help them through those things, right?
Yes.
Again, I'm not here to say that I'm the counselor for everybody, and I
Mm.
help everybody. I've even gone as far as, I'm not going to say their name, but I've gone as far as even referring a student athlete to another organization, because
Mhm.
what we were able to do wasn't enough for them, right?
Right.
So we're not here to say that we're the masters of everything, and everybody needs to come through us. Like, there's other organizations that are doing similar things, or whatever it is. Our goal is to get as many student athletes and or just athletes or at-risk youth on a whole to that
Mhm.
next level of higher learning, which is education at the post-secondary level. And that's it,
Yes.
right? And we'll do whatever it takes to help them out, right?
Right.
And that's the key, man. Like, that's all we're here for, and that's what we're passionate about, and we're gonna do this till we can anymore.
Right, exactly. We needed all this back in our day. Thank you. Great. And it's funny, like I shared it. It's so funny. And I was talking with Andrew Mitchell on Tuesday, art therapy and all those different things. But that was a conversation we were having about when I was playing football at Waterloo, sorry, even before Waterloo, when I was played at Meadowvale and being recruited to all these different schools, ended up at Waterloo and all these things, and it didn't really turn out. And that sense of a lack of preparation on my part is the thing that fuels my business today.
Yeah,
Everyone who walks in the door, I want to make sure that they are prepared
yeah,
for a podium performance in whatever it is that they do, whether it's chasing grandchildren or being like a rowing champion. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
whatever that gold star is for them, that sense of preparation that I didn't have for myself is what I'm preparing them for. So that
So
resonates with me, that
yeah.
sense of like we needed that back in the day.
Did you have mentors? Did you have people around you? Did you have a tight circle around you, or did you have somebody to go to kind of say, "Hey, listen, I'm struggling with this, man. Like, how do I get through this? How do I balance it all?"
No, I mean I had a bunch of friends who were also focused and locked in, and they all like I'm like Granville Mayor's generation, right? Like all of us went to school the same time. So like guys who went to the States for scholarships, played in Canadian ball, all those things. So like that generation was locked in terms of training.
Yeah,
Like we all trained like beasts, back in the day, like
yeah,
Morgan Campbell, all these
yeah. I
guys.
remember all those guys. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Right. So,
yeah.
so all of us knew how to train, but we didn't have resources.
That's right. That's
You know what
right.
I'm saying? Like that's one thing. We had the focus, we had the potential, but we didn't have someone saying, "Okay, you would be a best fit for this conference. Let me talk to these schools because they would need someone like you, or you would fit best in the system because this is a good coach for you."
Right, right. Yeah, that's and not to age us here, but I think I'm a little bit younger than you. And we didn't have that either in our generation. Our coaches just said, just go out there and play, man. And I remember specifically when I was in high school, uh, our coach just looking at us and looking at me specifically and just saying, you know what? I don't know, man. Like, I don't even know what you would want to do post secondary. Like, he literally said that to me in his office. Like, what do you want to do? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. And I also remember, I got a lot of universities calling, and he didn't pass the information on to me, so I missed out
Yes,
on
I've heard that.
opportunities.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm just like, wow, like, really?
Mhm.
Who would do that, right?
Right.
So yeah, man, we're here to change the narrative and help as many people as possible.
Mhm.
So yeah, man, I commend you for doing this off air. I'd definitely like to continue this
Absolutely.
conversation and seeing how you and I could collaborate. Because there's definitely a need for what you do in our space.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, no, just yeah, you're doing what I want to do, but don't have the energy to do it. So like, I'm more than willing to jump on board with you doing. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
Baller Mom Canada has a comment.
yeah.
I so agree. I see lots of trainers focusing on movement and not conditioning. Yes, and
Shout
the
out to
guy
Baller
I
Mom.
yes, I saw you guys did a do you a podcast or IG live together?
Yeah, we did a live. We did a live. Shout out to her.
Cool.
I love what she's doing. She's phenomenal.
Absolutely.
She's
Yes.
exactly what we need in the
Hmm.
community. I look at what she does as from a metaphoric standpoint. Like we all need that mom. We all need
Yes.
that person that oversees everything that
Hmm.
we are going through. And you know what I mean. Like for
Yes.
me, I'm a mama's boy. When I was growing up, and I always went
Hmm.
to my mom for things and so on and so forth. So
Yes.
she is like the mom of the community in the basketball space, and I love
Yes. Well, that's just it. And I think I just stumbled across, she might follow one of my three handles, or I follow her from one of them. And like what you're doing is like, I see that and that's great. I wish that more people knew that she existed.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Like, how do we, like, I'm doing my best with this platform. I know that like there's 10 people watching and a replay and stuff like that. So it's not a massive following yet, but I try my best to amplify these voices, right? That they're doing, that people like her and like yourself are doing amazing work. How do we get ourselves more visible? How do we get more eyes on us so people know that we exist when we're doing amazing work like what you're doing?
so I would say this, and I think you touched on this earlier, Martin. I think before I got on, or maybe right at the beginning of our conversation here, is the strategic partnerships. I think we need to do that more, and we need to literally stop talking, myself included. I'm not saying you or her or anybody. We need to, as a community, stop talking about it and literally do it. Like
Yes.
have a meeting and say, listen, how can we help? I see what you're doing, right?
Hmm.
Like, and again, I'm gonna, I'm saying this publicly on your platform. I will
Yes.
be calling you to have a
Yes.
conversation with you to see how we could collaborate. And
Yes.
that's just me. I'm open to collaborating with everybody. There's other, like I said before, there's other organizations that do exactly what we do, like
Mm.
down to a T, exactly what we do. I'm
Yeah.
open to collaborate with them. I'm not nobody's competition. There's so many um, student athletes out here that need the support, and we can't help them all. Other
Right.
organizations that are doing similar things, they can't help them all. We definitely don't have all the funding to give everybody $20,000, scholarships.
Yes.
One basketball team is like 10 to 15 kids. I could give every student athlete on that one basketball team a $20,000 scholarship. Impossible. So,
Right.
we definitely need to work together better as a community and stop talking about it and be about it.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Sure.
And yeah, and like, and just even that saying, like, just live that out, right? Like, I mean, like we talked, I think someone connected us. We had one conversation. We were on, like, we had a Zoom call the Monday, like 2 weeks later, the Friday, we're doing this. So I'm not patting ourselves on the back, but I think there needs to be action.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
you know
It
what I'm
was it
saying?
was our board, one of our board members, Bianca.
Yes.
She
Bianca, yes.
she definitely connected us, and she's great at that, right? Like she's great at
Yes.
connecting people and seeing where collaborations could grow and cultivate.
Yes.
So when she did that, I was like, yeah, absolutely, I'll have a con because she knows I'll have a conversation with anybody. We're easy to find.
Hmm.
I'll talk to anybody, and it's because it's not about me and my organization. Yeah,
Right,
my name
right.
is on my organization, but it's not about me. It's about the youth that we're really trying to help and make for a better future, right? All
Yes.
around, right? We see,
Absolutely.
not to get political, but we see where the world is going. We see the things that are happening in the world. So we need to make our our generation have to do a better job of helping and helping the next generation. So giving them the tools and resources to just be
Yes.
better than us, right? So
Yes.
we have to do
Absolutely.
that collaboratively.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no. I noticed that in our conversations and stuff like that, like as we were promoting this, that Caravana reposted our this chat coming up. Do you have like, any connection with them, or is that just like
Yeah. So there's two organizations.
okay?
So Bianca, Bianca is also sits, I believe, on the board of one of the Caravana organizations, and
Yes.
I know another gentleman. So there's two Caravana type of organizations that are running, I guess, the overall organization of Caravana.
Okay.
Right? So Bianca sits on one, and I know another gentleman, Kwesi Thomas, that sits on another organization. So he may have done that as well. I'm
Reposted.
not
Okay,
sure.
cool.
Yeah, I'm not sure who done it, but I know two people that sit on
Amazing.
organizations. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, good.
Yeah.
Man, you're doing great work. I love the fact that even like those two organizations are reposting this and just letting more people in the community know. I have a kind of a philosophical question for you, and
Uh-oh.
I know, right? Because I usually, and I like for those in the audience, I usually prep people when I throw questions like this out at them, but I think that you'll be fine. Black owned, black led
Yeah.
businesses. What's your thoughts on that when it comes to supporting? Like, do you feel like you need to just like support black people and just have black people working for you and build it up, or is it suffice for you to be like, well, I'm black, so I'm running it, and whoever can come and is welcome, sort of thing? Like, what's your thoughts on that kind of philosophy of for us, by us, or just I'm here and I'm gonna do this well?
Right. So that's definitely a loaded question.
Yes.
I'll definitely answer it the best of my ability.
Yes.
So from my perspective, it's a two parts to that. The first part of your question, black-led organizations.
Yes.
Do we need to have that? Absolutely. We need to have more. I think every race, religion, creed, you name it, they all band together and they work together, and they have very successful organizations out there. And it appears to be, I'm not saying it is, but it appears to be seamless in a lot of ways how other organizations run, like the Jewish community and the Asian community. Like there's different, pockets within our city that are doing great things, right? You could literally drive down to Chinatown, right?
Right.
There's a Jewish, right? So I think we need, as a people, need that. Desperately, we need it. The second part to it is, even though we need it, we also have to, when we are setting up our organizations, we have to be smart about it as well as organized, right? There's a lack of organization. I think a lot of our people jump into businesses,
Enterprise in general. Yeah.
right? And it's not well thought out. So it makes it difficult for one black person to kind of support the other black person, because when they go to support it, it's not run properly. They get a bad taste in their mouth, and they're like, see, you know what, I'm trying to support you, but it's not done right. So why would I go back to you when I could go over there and it's done right, and I can support them and I have no issues, right? So if we are going to do whatever it is we're going to do, it just has to be done right. I think we need to take the time, right? And that's what we've done. That's why we could have come out years ago, but we've taken the time to create a proper product to before we go to market. That way, not to say that we're perfect, but we've done our best to minimize the hiccups and minimize people coming our way and being disappointed, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. No, it makes sense. Because you know who you're not as well as who you are.
Right. And that's why, going back to your initial question about the strategic partnerships, that is also key, right? So I'm not going to sit here or go to a family's house and say, hey, I'm going to get your kid a scholarship, a full ride scholarship, and promise them all these things, right? Without sitting with them first, consulting with them, understanding the process, and then creating a product for them specifically without doing my research, if that makes sense, right? Whereas there's others that just go in and say, promise all these things, and then when it flops, the parents come back and say, hey, you promised me this, you promised me that, and nothing happens. Well, then why would you expect people to come after them and and have a great experience. It just doesn't work that way.
It
So it's
doesn't work that
twofold.
way.
Yeah.
It is. It is.
What are your thoughts on that?
I believe in things being done in excellence,
Right.
right?
Right.
And so the questions that I've been asking you, the way you've answered with just like with that eloquence and just understanding exactly who you are and what you do, that's exactly it. So I believe that when we are succinct in what we're offering and we know the scope of our practice and do that well,
Mm-hmm.
that's where we need to be. And for my business, I feel like, okay, being a person of this skin tone, I want to still provide the best service, period. I don't want it to be, I don't necessarily need to label it as a black owned business. I want it to be a Pilates studio. This isn't a black Pilates studio. This is the best Pilates studio in the country, not the best black Pilates studio in the country, sort of
Right.
thing. Like that's your goal. You want to be there because it's excellent, because it is professional, as all those things, so that we don't perpetuate the stereotype of something that was, hung up overnight, and then you're over promising and under delivering, and then people say, I'm just going to go to here because it's consistent and whatever. Like, I want to build something that is just done really, 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 really well. So if
Yeah.
I build it slow and build it well, as opposed to building it fast and then it flops.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's
The
exactly what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So then
Yeah.
this, like, your skin tone doesn't come into play. It's just a good, well-run business. Like, I'm not gonna go to a tax guy because he's from Jamaica, because my family's from Jamaica. I'm gonna go to a tax guy because he's good at taxes.
Yeah. That's
You know what I'm
exactly
saying?
right. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think my industry needs to be exactly the same.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're 100% right with that. Right. We have to, and that's, I feel like that's the problem with a lot of businesses within our community. On the flip side of that, there's a lot of great businesses within our community, the Black community,
Yes.
that we support and I love, and so on and so forth. But I feel like in some businesses, it's like customer service is poor,
Mhm.
and not to say that doesn't happen in any other communities, but it's like we gotta do a better job on a whole. And
Yes.
it's a work in progress, and I think
Mhm.
we definitely could get there, right? And I think it's through collaborations like this and conversations
Absolutely.
like this that where we could become better as a people on a whole, right? Because
Yes.
we have to lead by example, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Right.
for sure.
And one of the things I said earlier this week is that when we take the time to cultivate relationships, I think that's where it begins and ends. So like when you start to cultivate relationships, build friendships, and build trust,
Mm.
then your network grows in a healthy way, and then I can continue to connect people and introduce people and collaborate and have those things happening within my circle. So my small circle is getting bigger, but it's like there's people that are in that circle that I can blindly hand someone over to and know that they're going to give them the same level of service that I would.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. You mentioned it earlier. You said you don't refer anymore,
Mhm.
right? But you kind of
Connect.
connect, right? And I think that's key, right? Because we're in the same boat. I can no longer, because our reputation is on the line. I can no longer say to any of our clients or customers, just go over there. They'll take care of you. No, I need to. Our name is riding on it, so I got to make sure that when I do send you there, you'll be
Right.
taken care of the same way how you'll be taken care of here, right?
Right.
Uh,
Right.
so uh, it starts with us, man. Martin,
It does.
you have a lot of pressure on your shoulders, man.
I feel it in a good way. I mean, but that's the thing, right? It's just, it's
Yeah,
like, full circle. Like you starting a foundation, like you have a lot of paperwork to fill. It's like, yes, it's important. So I'm gonna fill out the paperwork. Like it's the same thing with this. Like I feel that like we cultivate these relationships, we build these connections, we take the time. Like we have to carve time out to build that trust with people and take care of the people in our circle. Like if we don't take that time, then we're not going to be ready when those opportunities open.
right. And I think the other key part to it too is that when you do provide an immaculate service, the response will be organic. It'll be real, right?
Yes.
So that's not you self-promoting. That's your customer or your client saying, hey, I went to this service, they took care of me properly.
Yes.
So I think you should go, because then, you know, you'll get great service, right?
Yes.
And that's key. And that's why, you know, we don't take on the world. We want to help as many student athletes as possible, but we don't take on the world.
Great.
We're not partnered with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
We get calls all the time, and you know, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. We just say, listen, we're not ready, because I don't want to.
Okay, there is.
Yeah,
You're in the
yeah.
middle of like a brilliant thought too. And sorry, man.
Yeah, no, it's all good. No, it's all
Yeah.
good. I was just saying that we have to just make sure that, you know, we don't overextend ourselves, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And we want to be able to, and that's why we don't partner with the world. We don't just
Mm-hmm.
say, because we get calls all the time. You know, could you exclusively work with us or partner with us and partner with us? But
Mm-hmm.
we can't partner with everybody, and we become watered down, and we don't provide the exact same service that
Yes.
we would with the few people that we do have, right?
Yes.
We're trying to, I said this earlier, we're trying to provide that bespoke type of custom
Love that.
service
Right.
for our clients, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that way we know that when they're through with us, that, you know, they've received everything that, you know, they signed up for.
Right. Uh, these core conversations, the one thing that I love about it is that, you know, in the personal training world, people will look at you online and they'll say like, oh, I saw the guy do push-ups or whatever it is. I want to sign up with him because of what he does. And then we have conversations like this, and then they hear your heart, they hear your passion, and then they're like, I want to stay with them because of who they are.
Right. Right.
So when we do these core conversations, that's the thing I love about it, is that we get to understand who the person is, the man behind the brand.
Yeah.
And some of my proudest moments over the last year have been when I have one person on, like there's Becky Fares and Annette, two ladies who are in Louisiana and New Orleans, and they do Pilates. And they never knew each other, didn't know each other existed, but were in the same area. And they saw each other's conversations. They reached out to one another, and they've collaborated and done some like work together and projects together and stuff like that. And they're like, we met because of
Yeah.
core conversation. So
Yeah.
I love the fact that we can, like, we all the stuff we just said, all that good stuff about building relationships and connecting and stuff, but then we can have conversations like this to kind of fast track it, so strangers can now hear your whole backstory, look you up, connect their kid, and get them on going on that journey.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly what it's about, man. And we also done something very similar to this, and we took a break for a while, and we're
Mm-hmm.
gonna come back with season 2. But we've done Mentor Mondays, and that's the
Yes.
exact same thing. Where on a Monday we'll sit with like pro athletes or mentors, individuals like yourself, and we pick their brain. It's the exact same concept, and that's what you know, brings the community together, right?
Yes.
Having these open conversations, talking about a lot of things that people are thinking about, but not
Yes.
necessarily implementing or doing within their own lives, right?
Right. Yes.
So to hear people, actually professionals, talk about it, that's is a major key in my mind.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
All right, man. That was a fast hour. I really appreciate you coming on, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah.
And we'll do the same. We'll have you on our show, and we'll continue the conversation, and definitely
Absolutely.
connect with you, and see what we can do.
Absolutely. Baller Mom Canada, thank you for all that you do. Prime Minister P20, yes, get you on those floats. Yes, thank you to everyone who joined us today on the conversation. Really appreciate you coming out and cheering your boy on. And yeah, Bryan, thanks for all that you do, man. We'll definitely be connecting. Actually, I'll message you right after this, before my next client.
Yeah.
And Mentor Mondays coming back.
Yeah, definitely. We're definitely gonna have it back season 2. We just kind of gave it a break for this whole, you know, the lockdowns and all of that and stuff like that, we gave a little break, but we're definitely due season 2. And it was great, man. We were trying to bridge the gap between the professional players, whatever the sport is, basketball,
Yes.
soccer, with the actual student athletes, right?
Oh, very cool.
And have them actually talk to them directly as opposed to me just, talking about my experiences. But
Right.
that's what we're trying to do. So that's good.
Sweet.
Yeah,
Yeah, looking forward to it.
appreciate you.
All right, likewise. Take care. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks. Take care.
Take care.